Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 12 of Tamiya's US Aircraft Carrier Enterprise CVN65. The scale is 1 to 350. In this part, I'm going to be concentrating on building the island. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. As you can see, the paint is dry from the previous videos of painting the island. Now it's time to place on a couple of decals. I prefer to do this now other than wait until I've built the tower. It just gives me a little bit more room to place these decals on. There's not many to go on, just the registration marks and nameplates. Of course, if you do it this way, you have to make sure they're 100% dry before you start your assembly process. I'm skipping ahead of the instructions a little bit here. There's a few little sub-assembly things to be built up first, and I prefer to do that now, and when I get to the parts ready to assemble onto the main island, everything is going to be dry. So hence why I'm just skipping ahead. Now these little parts here, there's various shapes. I would imagine obviously they have different functions. This part, according to the instructions, is the top yard. Slightly different names, I would imagine, to sailing ships, but it's the same principle, really, from yard arms and so on. But as I said, these are just tiny little parts going onto the deck. Each one has their own location point. And doing it this way just makes the whole process a lot easier, in my opinion. Of course, you don't have to do it this way, but I would recommend doing all the sub-assembly first. So I'll just place up my hand there so you can get a better view of it. And the next is what they're calling the radar yard. Same with the top yard here, just a little bits and pieces going on. There's a strange shaped one, it looks like a Christmas tree thing. No idea what it's for, but it's quite an interesting shape. But there's various little radar nodes that go onto this part. Moving on to the long-range anti-aircraft search radar, seemingly. As I say, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just taking these names from the instructions, so they could well be wrong. So don't take them as read. There's obviously people out there who know the proper terms for these if these are incorrect. But as I said, I'm just reading it off the instructions, so I'm not 100% sure. But the assembly is fairly straightforward. This is a three-dimensional radar, and like all these parts, there's just one or two components to them, and the location points for them are quite easy. I've now moved on to the flight deck, the top of the flight deck control center, and like the other yards, just all these little sensors and things like that that are going on to it. Next we have the landing guide radar. I should point out as well, these little parts, there's not a great amount of detail on them, which I think is quite a shame, really. They could have used the molds in a better way, but it is an old kit, so I suppose it could be forgiven for that. But I think the kit definitely needs updating. This little platform is gets attached to the main mast. It has a small radar in the center with some sensors at the tip of it. These are very small. Be careful when you're taking these off the sprue as well. They have got a tendency to break if you're not careful. And of course, if you don't have a hold of them, they can fly everywhere when you take them off. This system will go on the opposite end of where the platform I just made up. It's quite an interesting shape, this. I think of it as a sort of hammer-like shape. I would imagine, again, it's some sort of radar system. The front-facing piece goes on at an angle, but the location point reflects that. So you can't get it wrong, really, but it's just a different shape compared to everything else. So that's all the small sub-assembly parts done. It's time to make up the island now. The first four panels, two of them have this grid-like configuration it points out. The location points weren't really defined on this. They were sort of disguised with the rivet work on the actual panel as well. I had to make sure not only were they in the right place, but they also weren't quite large enough as well. I had to open them up slightly. There was also a decal going on here, but I couldn't put it on like the other ones I did earlier because I knew this strut had to go on first. But it was only a small decal, and I was able to carry on with the build without too much drying time because the decal didn't encroach on any of the location areas. I just had to be careful not to touch the decal. So the side panels are going on to the bottom part of the main structure. Now, as you can see, this is like a cube shape, and it just wraps itself around it. The best way is just to find a starting point and then work on your way around. Each one got a beveled edge as well, so it does fit quite squarely onto the next panel. But you may want to dry fit this until you're 100% sure how everything fits. I'm retouching some of the paint, so it's Umbro 87 steel grey for the walkways on the platforms, and then the main colour 127 US Ghost Grey Umbro for the main colour. Now the bottom section is dry, I can place on the next level, and this is just the core unit that's going on. So like the bottom level, they have the core block and the panels will be secured to it. Each section has a nice clear defined location point to get these in, and it only goes one way as well, so you won't get mixed up and put it on the wrong way. And this level comes in three parts. You've got the block core, and then you've got the next platform up with the core sitting on top of that. Now that's important that that gets built now and attached to the main unit before we carry on. You want to be careful of your location here when you're assembling this. It can be a little bit tricky because you can't really see inside all that well how it's sitting, but it should sit flush within the bracket within the core. And then I can put on the bridge panel. So I'm just pointing it there. If you can just make out with the camera, this is where the glue was that I created the windows. It's all 100% clear now, and it just makes that little tiny area as a window. It's such a good way to make your windows if you've never done it before. There's a couple of really small bits that have to be attached onto this. Now again, I think it's better to attach them now before the main panel goes on. This is just for ease of handling. I think they're little searchlights or something like that that are that I'm placing on, but they're minuscule. The camera is having quite a lot of difficulty picking them up. And then it's time to fit the panels. I should say so. I'm sorry about this being off center, but I didn't realize this when it was filming that the camera was in the wrong position. But that's how it is, I suppose. And to be honest with you, it's not like the first time I do it. I do this all the time. I'm trying to get better at it, making sure the camera, all my hands are in the a better position for you to see it actually getting built. Luckily, these parts are quite large, so they're easy enough to make out. So as I'm assembling this section of the tower, the bridge command area, this is where I'm going to end the video. These parts will need quite some time to dry before I move on to the next one part. I want to make sure they're completely solid before I handle it more than I have to. The most important thing here while building this area is make sure that the windows all line up before you are happy with the positioning. You don't want these to be off center. There's other bits and pieces that will be going on, so they need to be flush, completely flush before you move on. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure it's 100% dry before I handle it anymore, because I don't want it just to slip out of position. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, and please do so, make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.